years old, and today I'll be talking about how everything has impacted on me.
How did all this start?
Well, when I was friends with her, she asked me to send nudes and she would send back. She said send for send.
A few months ago, this young girl says her friend pressured her into sharing nude photos. She sent two, one of her top half and one of her bottom half. Send for send is what her friend called it.
You send one, she sends one back.
Yes.
But she didn't send one back.
Yes.
She kept yours.
And she saved it to her camera roll.
What did she do with it then?
The next day she went and hung out with the other girl, and they started sharing it around together, sharing it around all schools.
And what sort of social media were they sending it around on?
Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and then people started getting a hold of it and started bullying me and making fun of me and saying stuff to me about it.
Whoa. And did the police become involved?
Yes, the police have been involved because of what it's done, because it's exposure to my body and I'm a child.
She has written a statement to the two girls who are alleged to have shared the images.
Ever since this has happened, I have not been wanting to go to school because I feel like people are talking about me. When it happened, I felt really uncomfortable and insecure about my body.
And how many people saw it, do you think, roughly?
Probably over 2,000 people saw it.
Everybody you know?
Even my friends now, they even seen it, and my family and stuff.
Your family ended up seeing it? What, like your sisters and that?
Yeah, my sisters, my nana and them.
Your nana saw it?
Yeah, and she sent it to my mum and said, look what my granddaughter's doing.
And why'd you do it? Just...
Because of what she was saying to me and threatening me and stuff. Just like peer pressuring me to do it. I really thought I could trust her, but I was wrong. This has made me hate myself because when it happened, I thought it was my fault, but at the same time, it was also her fault. I'm saying this because you have really damaged me and my life. I loved you so much, but I can't anymore.
As well as sharing it, one of the girls is also alleged to have set up a fake Instagram account to sell the nude images.
She put my nudes up on the account and she put, anyone want to buy these? And so she got a message from, I think, this guy in India, and he said, I would like to buy those for money. And then she said, all right, and then that happened.
So you've been a victim of sextortion, haven't you?
Yes.
And why have you done the interview and why are you speaking out publicly?
Because I don't want anyone to know that I'm ashamed when I'm really not. I'm not ashamed to be a victim of sending nudes and my body getting sent around New Zealand, because it happens, and that I need girls and boys to know that if you've done it, then it's a mistake, it's not your fault.
Yeah, well, this is my first couple of weeks at university, so I thought I just already screwed up my whole career. Yeah, I was quite worried the whole night. I didn't sleep much.
Jack's trying to get into medical school next year and was very worried after a late-night flirtation online took a sinister turn.
It started with me messaging a girl from Auckland University, or they said they were from Auckland University, And it just started with just talking about studies. And then the next day it started to turn a little bit.
Sexual?
Yeah, she started by sending me photos of her face, and then she was asking to send sexual photos back and forth. And then as soon as I sent one, that's when they started sending threats.
And what were the threats?
They basically gave me about 5 to 10 minutes to send them $500. Otherwise, they're going to send them to my course, which was my health science office, and they had the email for that because they'd asked me what my course was and what university I'm at.
In 5 to 10 minutes?
Yeah. So they were trying to crank the time pressure on so that I wouldn't have much time to think about it. So I tried to call the police, but I couldn't get hold of them at that time of night because it was like 2 in the morning and I was in an emergency. So I called my parents to ask them what to do, which was not fun.
No, that's...
No, it was a bit embarrassing.
He didn't send any money, which police and NetSafe both say is key. Jack's part of a generation that shares nudes online.
How common is it?
I'd say that 9 out of 10 of my friends would have done it at some point, whether it's with someone they know or someone they don't know.
Did you have any idea that sextortion was such a big thing?
No, I'd heard of it, but I never realised it was so common until after this has happened to me and I've been in contact with other people.
After chatting to Jack, I went to Otago University student magazine Critic, who investigated a cluster of sextortion cases on campus.
The issue that this story was in was here, issue 4 of this year, our National Geographic parody. And 9 students have reported being hit with a sextortion scheme in Dunedin over the course of 1 week. But how many people, even here on this campus, have been victim to this exact same scam, and we've never even heard of it happening, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like there must be a lot of probably young men in particular that haven't shared what's happened to them, just out of deep shame or fear or embarrassment.
Agreed. I think like there's this big conversation going on, I think, in the country right now about like young men's mental health specifically, and I feel like that's something that this scam really takes advantage of.
Police also wanted to talk to us to highlight this growing issue, so I met with the head cop from the Office of Child Exploitation in Wellington.
We're currently averaging 58 instances reported to us a month, which is over double what we had last year in 2022. We're finding that the majority of our victims, 74% of them, are actually male.
So where are you finding most of the offenders are based?
It's quite challenging, but a significant number of our offenders are based abroad, overseas.
Yeah, so are you sort of hamstrung as to what you can do when the offenders are overseas?
So when that's the case, we reach out to our partner law enforcement agencies in their jurisdictions and make referrals, which we've made a number of them this year already seeking their assistance. And if we identify any offenders in New Zealand, it's followed through so that we can hold these people to account.
We have a basic rule in our family that if our kids are going to go to someone else's house, we'll contact the parents first, either give them a phone call or just fire through a text and say, hey, just wondering what devices you have at your house and do you have filters in place? It can be a difficult conversation because you've got to try to do it without sounding like an arsehole, right? Like that parent. Yeah.
So how did this whole journey start for you?
Back a few years ago, the kids were asking us, like, can we have smartphones, can we have tablets, can we have gaming consoles, like all of it, right? And we were like, before we give you anything, we're going to research this. So we researched it and we researched it, and we ended up traveling halfway around the world, interviewing some of the world's leading experts in this field, because we're those people. And we ended up putting a documentary together about it.
There are predators on the outside looking in that see everything our kids are doing online.
She started saying to me, hey, send me a picture of you. And so I did.
The FBI estimates there are 750,000 child predators online.
Rob Cope now uses what he's learned to teach other parents.
All of that led to giving talks in schools. There was a massive demand. Like, the main issue principals seem to have is parents not protecting their kids online, and the schools constantly having to deal with the fallout of that.
He's booked out months in advance, travelling to schools all over the country.
I've given this talk a couple of 100 times now, and sometimes I still get emotional over stories, because it's, you know, at the end of the day, I'm still a dad, and these stories are affecting our kids. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting emotional now. It's weird, but yeah.
Tonight, we're at Waterloo School in Lower Hutt.
So Rob, what's like the key takeaway you hope parents will get from tonight?
I think the main thing, I always want parents to know, like, this is the reality of the online world your kids are growing up in. It looks nothing like the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even the 2000s.
Do you think most parents are getting it wrong?
I think most of us parents, we're the first generation of parents who are having to deal with this issue, and we didn't realise how bad it was and how out of control it's become. And that's what I hope to turn the tide on. What our kids are facing online, like, it's never been seen before.
What is the reality?
Predators hunting for children, like constantly hunting for children on all the social media apps. And their kids are easy prey because they're alone on their device. Predators know exactly what to say.
But I would say in New Zealand, probably about 9 out of 10 of our families do not have adequate filters in place to keep our kids safe. But once your kids hit probably about 10 or 11 years old, you need to have the discussion. And you need to say, hey, we've given you unfiltered access to the internet. I'm sorry, I've dropped the ball as a parent. I shouldn't have done that. I didn't realise how bad it was out there. So now we're going to put filters on all the devices, and we're going to protect you. And the kids sometimes will be like, but that's not fair! And you're like, yeah, suck it up, life's not fair. No, it's not.
I describe it as a 3-day war. So kids can't screen for more than 3 days. I've figured this out. So if you're going to change the rules on the kids, like, you're going to be in for a war, but it's a war worth fighting because you're talking about the mental health of your children.
I'm back down in Dunedin to talk to Leanne Ross. She works for NetSafe and she's an expert in sextortion, and she paints a pretty grim picture about how fast this problem's escalating, but she's also got some really great messages of hope.
We've had victims as young as 10, victims over the age of 65. It can also happen to people who have been in consensual relationships and then those have broken down and turned nasty. There's lots of different ways that this can happen to people.
How big a problem is this?
Unfortunately, it's big and it's getting bigger. This time, 2020, we were seeing 20-something reports a month. Now we're seeing over 200 reports a month. The graph just goes like this, it's not going down.
Why do you think that is? Is it because it's working?
Essentially, yes. These are professional scammers, they're often based overseas, and this tactic, the way they target people, is working. And I think the other reason it's rising is because a lot of young people are increasingly comfortable building and maintaining their relationships online, so it makes them quite vulnerable to people who are professional manipulators.
Yeah, because maybe some older generations might think, well, they shouldn't be sharing intimate videos and photos, but is that just not the reality of the world we live in?
It's not the reality. It wasn't the reality when I met my husband a decade ago. It's not the reality now, and it's not going to go away. Kids have always experimented with each other, you know, kissing behind the bike sheds, you know, maybe showing each other their bodies. I mean, this has been around for decades, and everyone thinks that the answer is to take the cyber part away. But it doesn't change human behaviour.
So what can people do and what should people know?
These scammers, it will be hard for you to spot them. You're very tech savvy, but you may not spot them. So you've got to just have your guard up a little bit more. If you haven't met them in person, double check things, take things slowly.
And she says parents need to be alert, but also understanding.
And these are hard conversations. This is an embarrassing topic. Parents don't want to think about their 15 or 16-year-olds sharing nudes. So let's just make sure that if they make some bad decisions or someone tricks them, which is what happens here, just be a safe place to land.
If the worst does happen and nudes are shared, Leanne says it's important you don't panic. Don't send any more photos, block the person, and know that there are now websites that can help pull down your photos.
And there'll be so many people that don't know this exists.
No.
It's a takedown tool. 2 websites, one for under 18-year-olds and one for over, which automatically remove your intimate photos or videos from most, if not all, of the places where they would likely be circulating.
This is a really important wording. It says select your photos and videos. You're not uploading them. They're not leaving your device. You're just going to select them, and the whole hashing or coding is happening right here on the website. Automatically, it creates a long code, digital fingerprint, letters and numbers, and that is what gets shared with the platforms so that they can automatically chase that code, and anytime they find it, they can try to remove it.
An algorithm that will forever hunt down and delete the pictures.
Knowing what you know, you've got a teenager. What are your tech rules?
My tech rules in the house with my almost 15-year-old are just no phones in the bedroom. It's the only boundary that I create at that age. And the reason for that is because even as an adult, none of us make good choices between midnight and 3 a.m. So if we can help them to avoid falling foul of that without the support, often their family are asleep and they're panicking alone, that's a really good one to have.